All right.
Cool. Well, we can get started. I'm an old friend of Ian's, so I'm really excited
Oh,
to talk
really?
to you. Yeah, I've known him since the Riverboat Gamblers days, like way back. So
Condolences, man.
yeah, I talked to him. I emailed with him a couple years ago. I was like, "What have you been up to?" He's like, "Oh, I'm playing a band of horses now." So it was very surprising to me, but cool. I mean, he's a great guitar player, great guy. So
He's awesome, man. Yeah, it's funny. He was we have upward mobility in Band of Horses where you can start at merch and then become the guitar player.
yeah, yeah, that's amazing. I mean, what was it sort of like for you kind of making this record, I guess, Ian and Matt and sort of having like a different lineup and what having some time in between records and COVID. I mean, what did it feel like? Did it feel different making this one than the other ones?
It's funny because the album was done like right before the pandemic thing hit. Um, so it's strange. It was strange to like languish with like something that you've completed it was fraught with all kinds of difficulties personally and technically things like that. Oh, and professionally, it was fraught with challenges. So then to have it finally done and that weight off your shoulders to be like, oh, now everything's shut down and we're just going to do the wait and see game for a couple of years.
Yeah. So what is that like?
It's sucked to not be able to again like get that monkey off your back and share the stories, especially like this one it is wrought with personal difficulties, and you kind of want those stories to get off your damn back so they can become other people's stories. I hope this record is timely in that way because I think people have been going through a lot.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. They definitely have. I mean, what about sort of the timeline for these songs? Like, were they written kind of like right after Why Are You Okay or specifically for this record?
It's peppered a bit with maybe a couple old demos I had. I did want the record to come out quick, like kind of like our first and second records did. I wanted this to be the sister to our last one, if that makes sense. Um, I felt like they had a lot of qualities in common. Um, the best laid plans, obviously. So they the songs were there, I feel like, but then and we did kind of move quick. There were some snags along the way, and I didn't feel like the record was good enough, to put it bluntly. Um, I didn't feel like the record was good enough. So came back here to Charleston and started working with my buddy Wolfgang Zimmerman. He was like working out of a goddamn garage, like a storage garage. Um, but then like set up a studio and we finished the album with a bunch of new songs that were kind of written on the fly because of a lot of the personal stuff that was going on. There was a bit of fodder to draw from.
Okay. So you write some new songs and then had the whole thing remixed, basically?
Yes, indeed, absolutely.
Okay.
So that at least it made it more expensive. That was cool.
I mean, was it
Mm-hmm.
hard? Was it hard for you to know when the record was finished? Like when it was kind of exactly what you wanted it to be, or is it ever exactly what you want it to be?
Ah, wow, good question. I don't know that a record's ever well that satisfying once it's done sometimes because there's always going to be questions. I think anyone's work, especially in this kind of, in the arts, you're like, did I do a good enough job? Did I pay attention enough? Did I put the work in? But man, once it was done, that second wave of it, that we got those new songs in there, and right before the pandemic hit, it was like, oh, this is done, and I ain't looking back at this thing. I'd be surprised if I even listen to the master of it.
Yeah, for sure. What were some of the songs that were in that second wave?
Um, a song called "In the Hard Times," "Tragedy of the Commons," um, "You Are Nice to Me," I think it's called now. Can't remember what's all in the album. I swear I don't listen to it. Um, there might be one more,
Okay.
um, but at least those three helped helps gel the thing together in a way that just it felt like more like truthful storytelling instead of like um metaphorical wordplay.
Yeah. And I think those songs, at least those three, are kind of analogous to each other. They seem to have a kind of a common thread.
They are definitely at least cousins.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this might be kind of a weird question, but I wouldn't consider Band of Horses like a punk band, but I feel like having, like someone like Ian or someone like Matt from Archers of Loaf or these kind of celebrated bands. I mean, do you feel like obviously this doesn't sound like, like a punk record, but do you think there's more elements of that even as far as like the way the band's ideology?
I grew up a punk kid.
Yeah.
I consider myself still a punk kid. I mean, I feel like a punk kid still. I think it's more and like the ethos of the people that we are more than maybe a description of the sound, if that makes sense. But Creighton's a punk kid. The guy that plays drums for us, he's my best friend. Yes, Matt's a total punk kid. Yes, Ian's a punk kid. Ryan, he's an anomaly. He's one of those kids with raw talent that's like you can't pin him any label on him. But the punk spirit, I think, that we all carry within us that we can't help but shape, the thing that makes us feel weird at parties or, weird at going to the bank. I do believe that it's always been, it's woven in the fabric of this band. But with Matt and Ian on the record, I do feel like we got to accentuate maybe those vibes a bit more. And also like I play guitar like a sloppy idiot with no fingers. So also accentuating those kind of the things that make us a bit fragile and not leaning so much on like this producer says you got to play guitar this way. I do believe that it's embracing that punk spirit a bit more on this album.
Yeah, I get it. I get that. I mean, when you were approaching kind of the guitars on this record, like I feel like Tragedy of the Commons, for example, the sort of guitar tone to me is it's really great. I feel like the palm muted with like the way it sounds. I mean, how much time did you spend kind of getting the tones and textures? Because it seems very well thought out, I guess, or very kind of planned.
Funny. Okay. Dude, I just remembered, thanks to you bringing it up. I remember bringing that song, I think on the first day of recording. I was like, I'm going to bring some song that I haven't played anyone a demo of, or I haven't even done a decent demo of yet to share, just to bring us all together and all feel like we're all in here, like that kind of shit, And I remember it going poorly and being like, wow, nice try, Ben. Okay. I do remember also I was thinking about Modest Mouse from, God, which record is it? Lonesome Crowded West. I don't know why, I probably had the song wrong, but I was thinking about Trailer Trash and just saw like how sometimes simple Isaac can be with his guitar playing. I was thinking about that record for some reason, and I'm probably getting the song wrong. I should look into it, but that kind of palm muted and kind of simplistic thing that still felt like, wow, I'm like playing in standard tuning. Wow, I'm like growing up here, It's like because I have my tunings are so fucking weird and usually so discordant that it's like a producer's nightmare.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned Mouse. That record has such interesting kind of guitar parts, and I could see that in your playing as well. These sort of
Can you catch that vibe on that riff?
Yeah, now that I actually think about it, I can. I think that Trailer Trash for sure is the song you're talking about. That's like one of my favorites.
I think so.
Yeah.
I can't really hear it in my head correctly right now. But yeah, dude, I love that.
I mean, I guess my last question is sort of like, when it comes to Band of Horses, like, where do you feel like the band kind of fits? Because to me, it's like you kind of have this kind of coming from Carissa's Weird, kind of this experimental punk side we talked about. and this whole Sub Pop chapter with all these kind of legendary bands. And I'm just curious, like where you see the band, if kind of where you see it fits, I guess, or do you not really think about that kind of stuff, kind of being an artist?
I can't believe that it's happened at all. I mean, it was amazing to think of the possibility that you could actually get signed to a label like Sub Pop, a band like us, and someone in Norway is going to hear that shit. It still baffles me to this point. Honestly, I'm still awestruck and grateful as motherfucking shit.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. Well, yeah, that should be good for me, Ben. Thanks so much for
Yeah, you good?
speaking with me. Yeah. Oh my
It was
goodness.
great talking with you, man.
All right.
Nice to
Have a
meet
good
you.
one. Yes, nice to meet
See
you
you,
too.
buddy.
Bye bye.
Bye.